Oh, wait. Yay! Here we go. Here's the music. That means the show is actually starting. We can do the Tower Show now. Devlin's amazing. She's a tech genius. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We are going. Thanks for waiting. The kids in the chat. Hi. As always, we are worth waiting for here.
Yeah, sorry.
TNT, we are
only a couple of minutes.
dynamite. It's fine. It increases the
tension?
excitement.
Yes.
The tension building, so that once the tension explodes, you're all like, all right.
It sounds like it's better than sex. Yes.
Well, don't even let me go there. But because in my opinion, all things are at this time, except for the Republican Party.
Oh,
It is
God, help
Thursday,
us.
May the 22nd. Dublin and Devlin with you, and we are witnessing some excruciating things because Republicans are insisting on killing us all as fast as possible. And for me, I don't know about you, Devlin, but for me, it's all about why. Why do you want us dead? Why? Because without us, what are you going to do? And my question from
tough
the
one.
beginning of all of this is, what is the end game? Correct? What is the end game for the billionaire class? Is it that they want?
I know they answered it.
an eagle's? Is it that they want an eagle's nest of their own, like Hitler had, where they could perch above us all,
Yeah.
and sit in a room together, the 10 of them or whatever, and smoke cigars, and each of them has a hooker behind them to rub their shoulders, and that's all that's left of the world, and then they can watch the rest of the world burn while they sit on the top of piles of money. Because, how much is enough? Why? What is the end game? Seriously.
The end game is rolling back the American Revolution. That's the end game. It's to drag us back.
What do they want?
Well, they
what do
want
they expect.
the world. They don't like. You understand? Okay. I mean, Republicans are voting for this because they're cowards, and they don't want Trump and Musk, to tweet bad things at them, and they like their cushy, phony, baloney jobs. That's it, and they like the power. We know that's
Right.
intoxicating. But
that's always been true of
It
the
is
Republican
true,
Party,
but
and they have never.
Okay, let me
they
explain.
have never come together like this to try to murder us as
Well,
one.
there are so many forces against us now, and one of those forces are the corporate media. They count on the propaganda mills to give them cover, and it does, and that's why Republican, the dumbasses in these red states who continuously vote for their own demise keep doing it, because they are consuming the right-wing propaganda machine. I mean, half the country listens to propaganda mills literally funded by the Kremlin and Fox News, which is, noted to make its viewers less informed than people who watch no news at all. And that's what they are counting on. That they don't care. I mean, that's why they do it in the middle of the night to make it to also, to wear people down, any of the holdouts, to wear out, because there's that human factor in their own cushy, phony, baloney jobs. They want to go home. Like remember when Marco Rubio was a senator, and he was complaining that he had to go fly in to take a vote. How ridiculous and all this shit. Because he wanted to stay home. They always disparage working people who want to work remotely, but he was like, why should I have to fly in? But this is what they are doing. They are counting in the propaganda mills to give them cover, and they will, and to disparage the Democrats 24/7, round the clock. We have people in this country who will never vote for Democrats because they think that that's tantamount to treason, while they slip lower and lower on the ladder. And that is because of the propaganda. And that's the bottom line. Propaganda works. That's why every autocrat takes over the media. That's why Trump devalued truth in this country. And we're reaping the results of this, and I'm going to write a whole thing about it, because Elon Musk and the billionaires, what is it? What will, you asked, when is enough? What do they want? They want it all. And if all
I
you
know.
have to do is read Curtis Yarvin, who is funded by Peter Thiel, same person who funds J.D. Vance's entire life. He is an avowed fascist. They do not believe in democracy. Peter Thiel says democracy is the worst thing that happened to humanity. They think that the people are, the unwashed masses. I mean, back in the 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, when the Western civilization was ruled by a intergenerational aristocracy and monarchy, democracy was a dirty word. It basically means rule by the unwashed, ruled by the basically the dirty people, and so that they believe that there are those, and this is conservatism in a nutshell. Rush Limbaugh gave up the game once when he said some people are born to be slaves. That's what they think.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes out. And what they're going to do is drag us back to the system that the founders fought a revolution to overthrow. And look at their policies. The government does nothing. All you got to do is take it to the end of take it to its conclusion. The government doesn't do anything for the people, right? This is their world, and it's the world that ruled civilization for 2,000 years, our Western civilization. So the government does nothing for the people. If you have a problem, if you fall on hard times, you go to the church for your benefits, if at all, and you toil in the fields. There's no social safety net. And no one, the only thing the government does is it makes the rich richer. It helps the people in the ivory towers, and those at the top, will hand out the favors to their loyalists. Look at what they're doing. That's why they go after the Department of Education. That's why they go after all the pillars of democracy, and that's why I wish the Democrats would message it like that. When Trump unravels, right? When he signs an executive order that was just deemed unconstitutional, of course, just destroying the Department of Education, then the Democrats need to message it as there they go again, attacking the pillars of democracy. They just don't like democracy. So, everything that holds democracy up, they are destroying. And it's because Elon Musk and the billionaire class, these sick sociopaths, really don't like democracy. They hate people, obviously, because how can you like people if you're ripping food and medicine from vulnerable people? How disgusting can you be? You vile scumbag. Right?
It's evil. It's evil, and it's mass murder is what it is. And if you don't see the Republican Party as a giant death cult at this point, you're probably part of it.
Right.
And and you brought up the Constitution, and it's a thin piece of paper that stands between us and the end of our society. It truly is. And none of the people who are in Congress right now were elected to benefit themselves. They were elected to uphold the Constitution and take care of their constituents. And so, me being the literal person that I am, I feel you should literally hit them with facts and say, you are not doing the job you were elected to do. Your job is to uphold the Constitution. Your job is to be loyal to your country. Your job is to take care of your constituents and not be beholden to one person. You are beholden to your country, right? And if you can't put your country ahead of your party, get the fuck out of politics, is my take. That's my take. And I wish there was a way to make every single Republican stand up on the House floor and the Senate floor and declare into the record, I have chosen loyalty to Donald Trump over the United States of America. And then they should be immediately forced to resign. You're not serving the people. You're serving one person. That makes you a traitor, worshiping a dictator. You're not an American. You're a Trumpublican. And so here's the assignment I'm going to give to the kids in the chat to share with everybody on your socials as well. The preamble to the Constitution lays out it sets an intention for what this country is and should always be forever and ever. And that's why I'm wearing my Schoolhouse Rock shirt today. So if you know it, you can sing it. If you don't know it, you can learn it. But what it is the preamble to the Constitution is, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, and a perfect union doesn't really exist, but a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Are they doing that? No, they're not.
No.
Provide for the common defense. They are not providing for the common defense. Promote the general welfare. Well, they're certainly not doing that. They are not promoting the general welfare at all. Secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. They're definitely not doing that.
Oh, no,
Because if you
no.
start killing us off now, what future generations do we have?
Well, there'll be serfs, a bunch of serfs in the field who await their rewards in heaven. That's it. Mm-hmm.
We wanted to form a more perfect union to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution. So
yes.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect super catchy.
Yep.
Super catchy. Republicans have forgotten this. This is the basic. This is the tenet of our country. I know, and
you give them too much credit. You think they forgot?
I'm not giving them credit.
I mean, they need to be reminded.
Whether they did or they didn't.
They will say that they are promoting the general welfare. That's what they will say.
Not when you take,
and they'll point to their pocket constitutions, and that they, only wave around when they're trying to deny kids a hot lunch program. So, yeah.
So, the questions are, why do you want your own constituents to starve to death? Why do you want your own constituents to be unhealthy, to lose health care, to not be able to retire, to not be able to take care of themselves? Our country is not supposed to do this. Our government is not supposed to take anything from us. The only thing they're supposed to take is some tax money, and our taxes are supposed to help continue to, support the whole country continuing to function on the daily.
Ideally.
And so what we're looking at is and so up until this Trumpian regime, and he tried it the first time and failed because there were enough people within his universe that had were invested in keeping America open and continuing to thrive. This time he didn't have that. So it's up to us, right? It is up to us to continue to push for it. And I will say, as I told you before we came on the air, every so often, what we do makes a difference. And we can see that in our efforts, like when Trump blinks on the tariffs because we push back on that, or when somebody backs down.
There's no deal. There are still tariffs. They're just not 150% and things. So they still are making things more difficult. Prices rise. I mean, there's zero bills. I mean, zero deals. He said he was going to do a deal a day. There's zero deals. Even the UK deal is not a deal, not an official deal. It's just a handshake agreement. So there's no deal.
I would also, when Moody downgrades you, when you're downgrading, that means you're not successful. You're not a successful businessman.
Well, they blame Joe Biden, right? It's Joe Biden's fault, of course.
And no, it isn't, because once again, Joe Biden saved our economy and lifted up all other global economies with ours, and Donald Trump is so jealous of Joe Biden that he is deliberately destroying his legacy. And we know that because we didn't need these tariffs. We were doing fine economically. This country was humming along, thank you, Joe Biden and Democrats. And then the media was like, oh, but old. And I wrote about I did a Substack yesterday. I did a video because I had done Dean Obadallah's show yesterday, and I was kind of in fuego. I was angry. My skin was on fire. I'm mad about this. And all we can do is continue to keep trying to push the truth out into the world while trying to hold Republicans accountable. But at the same time, we still have to hold Democrats accountable. And like a Democrat like Cory Booker, who's incredibly disappointing to us this week because he not only voted for that bullshit crypto thing that a bunch of other Democratic senators voted for. Cory Booker was the only Senate Democrat who voted to confirm Charles Kushner as ambassador to France, which I know we mentioned the other day. But this is why, this is just an example of Democratic leadership disappointing us. And yet, then we see them stand up and fight for us like this. And if we didn't have, like Jerry Connolly just died. which is very sad and unfortunate. We hope that Jasmine Crockett will take over his position on the House Oversight. But if we lost 3 Democratic representatives to death, and if we hadn't lost them, we would have not lost the vote in the middle of the night, and that's the other thing. If Republicans were super excited and very proud of what they're doing by taking away all of this stuff from the American people, they wouldn't be holding votes in the middle of the night. They would do it broad daylight, business hours, on camera, on every station, and be like, we are so proud to be murdering all of you collectively, and the MAGA mass suicide is in effect. We're super excited about this, and everybody should know. But they're not. They're not proud of it, and their actions, it's like, ignore what they say and watch what they do.
Yes.
You can say whatever. What you did was try to hold votes in the middle of the night. You kept Democrats there for 18, 19, 20 hours trying to wear them out, like you said. It's a big, beautiful bill. This is a big, bold, we have Democratic, big, beautiful bill. This is a big, bold, we have Democratic House members pointing out all of the inconsistencies in the... Oh, are we frozen?
You're choppy. You're choppy.
We're back. So choppy. I
choppy.
Should I hang up?
I seem a little choppy myself. No.
Or should we wait it out?
Hang up.
All right, I'll just keep talking and hope that
whatever. I really don't know what's fucking happening.
And I see
You're
that
frozen? Does this shit. And looks
all
like
right,
it's getting
maybe
better.
it's buffering and then... Okay, so this bullshit bill is that it would fund tanning beds while taking away hospital beds. Like, what? It removes like taxes on on tanning beds, or it allows for the tanning beds, or it's like protects tanning beds so that the Republicans gonna go cook themselves.
Well, it must be
it takes away
some
treatment
donor.
For people with cancer.
Yeah, like some big Republican donor owns tanning beds.
Right, I don't know. It's something about the tanning beds was pointed out by a Democratic representative, and she was like, "So those are fine, but cancer beds are not." Like, what? So, the only thing that we can do as members of the independent media, we need to reach out to members of the mainstream media that we still trust and try to collaborate and get our truth out to the masses, because too many people who live in this country aren't on social media, right? I don't know where they get their news from. I don't know where they get their information from. I don't know how they parse any of the information that they're given. But every so often we see pushback from mainstream media, like ABC News reporting on the lies, like what we saw yesterday in the Oval Office with the South African president. ABC News reported on that accurately and said Donald Trump played this doctored video that wasn't accurate and shared inaccurate information. And the South African president is like, no, this isn't. Well, maybe if I gave you a plane. He's like, oh, no, I would take a plane. It's so
embarrassing. Right. It's so fucking embarrassing.
No, just say how much you love violating the emoluments clause. And Peter Alexander, who's an actual member of the media who cares, asked Trump about the $400 bribe plane because the Department of Defense officially accepted it from Qatar. And it's going to cost the American taxpayer upwards of $1 billion to retrofit that plane to make it safe enough to be an Air Force One. And apparently it would take 3 years to do it correctly. And it most likely would end up being parked at a Trump library in 2020.
It will. That's like, the plan. He's going to take it with him.
But there are other people who are saying they're going to have it repainted and they're just going to put it up in the air immediately, like they did with the Lolita Express.
Well, what needs to happen, I heard Steve Schmidt talking about it, that once we get this country back from the monstrosities, that plane needs to be dumped in the ocean off of Maramoron, and it could be a very big, beautiful coral reef. where
It
students
would be.
can
It
go.
would do better for the world
Yes.
if that were the case. Because
And
we're losing
yeah,
our coral reefs.
and students can go and they could go learn how to dive and learn about environmental health and protecting the environment and whatnot. And that would be a fitting end for that thing, that disgusting.
It would. It would. I
yeah.
mean, I have a problem with Steve Schmidt because he was at the forefront of pushing out
Yeah.
Joe Biden, and he'll
And,
deny, and he
well,
denies it vehemently.
I have a
Denied
problem
it
with him
vehemently.
for shoving Sarah Palin into the
Hello.
national stage. So without a Sarah Palin, there would be no Donald Trump, and that is the truth. But
Exactly.
okay.
And Steve Schmidt did not like he put together a pack to push out Joe Biden.
Oh,
but
really?
Denied that that's what he was doing. Denied that that's what his group was doing when his group was totally doing it. And
Well, a lot of people were doing it. I mean,
Well, I know that, but what he did was he tried to blow me up on Twitter and he's like, "You're the reason, Joe, but we're gonna lose.
Huh?
You're me personally.
Why?
Me personally.
Why?
Because
Well,
I was advocating for Joe Biden to stay in the race rather than drop out, and he was pushing for Joe Biden to step aside, and I was like, this is before,
Wow.
obviously before Kamala, before Joe
Uh-huh.
Biden dropped out. And it, it started with the debate because the debate wasn't
Yeah.
perfect. Steve Schmidt is like, he's old, he can't talk, get him out, get him out, get him out. And I'm like,
Right.
fuck you, dude. He's like, look at his economic record.
I
Look
know.
at this, look at that, look at this. It should not be one debate shouldn't define somebody's legacy. This is
Uh-huh.
stupid. And he's like, it's your fault, you're a liar. And
Well, different
he
rules,
went
different
after
rules.
me and blew me up and wrote about me. And
Oh,
it was
wow.
bad. Like
That's
he
good.
had people going after me, so I blocked him, and I was like, "Fuck
Oh,
you!
shit.
Like this is what you're doing. Don't tell me I'm not seeing it." Like when and that's the thing. Republicans who speak out about Donald Trump, that's great. They're still Republicans.
Well, he's not a Republican
still-
anymore. He left the Republican Party, and but he registered as a Democrat. I mean, those are you could see those things. But anyway, yeah, I
you
hear
can
you.
see that, but that doesn't make somebody a better human, right? It
No,
just makes
I
somebody
hear
an
you. I just
opportunist.
like the way he turns a phrase. You know, he has a way with words that I appreciate.
Hey, so do we. We have I have the best words.
You just have
See,
a
it's in the
personal
whole
gripe,
book.
it seems. So I mean, I
Well,
get it. I get it.
Yes.
But-
yes. When someone goes after me and tries to destroy my credibility.
Destroy?
Yeah, I'm good. Oh, yeah. No, he was like, you have no credibility. You're just. He compared me to. He called me a grifter. He called me opportunistic. He was like, he called me a
Why?
liar. These
In
are
what
all
way?
things.
Like,
Because
I
I,
mean,
called him out publicly. Because
But-
I called him out. I'm like, this is what you're doing. This
What's
is you.
the
This is your
opportunity?
website.
you know what I mean?
He
Like,
was right. It was before the Kamala. It was before last summer. It was before that. It was in that month between when Biden had a bad debate and stepped aside. It was in that period where he was like, he was at the forefront of trying to push Joe Biden
Yeah.
out. And I was mad about it because
Right.
at that time, we didn't know what was going on and we didn't know what would happen.
I
And
agree.
there were those who were calling. There were those who were calling for a primary to take place at the DNC, which was wrong to do because that would have put us far even later into the
Right.
campaign season
yes.
with a
Who
candidate.
was saying that? Actually, now that you're saying it, it's all
A
coming
lot
back
of
to
people
me.
were doing that.
No, about the
A
it
lot
was
of
that
people.
friggin'
Dean Phillips. Remember
no,
Dean Phillips?
the guy from the Raging Cajun. What the fuck is that guy's name? He's so
Carville.
annoying. Oh God, he's so annoying.
James Carville.
Yeah, he was the one that was like, we should have a runoff primary at the DNC. He's got a lot of
No.
bad ideas, Carvel. So
Yes.
I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
They
He's
listen to him.
entertaining.
They should listen to us, for fuck's sake. What the? I mean, I've been telling these Democrats for years, right, Jim, in the chat, how to, and the moderator, thank you, Jim, for being
you,
a
Jim.
moderator. But he's been, I mean, I've been saying it for years, how you message. You take back patriotism from these fucking ghouls. And you unapologetically promote the democratic policies that built the middle class to begin with. We didn't have a middle class in the era after World War II, known as the Great Prosperity, because billionaires or whatever their equivalency were. I guess it was just millionaires at the time, but just because they felt like trickling on us. In fact, quite the opposite. It was because of government policy that deliberately, that consciously, I should say, built the middle class from the bottom up. And you do it through tax policy, through you do it through promoting unions, promoting policies that the Republicans stood against. Like, for example, the GI Bill. Every dollar that we spent sending a returning GI to university when they came home returned $6 in revenue. So you invest in your people. Republicans
That's right.
didn't want the GI Bill because what they saw were a large pool of labor coming home. And they don't work for the American people. They work for the few at the top. So they were against the GI Bill. I mean, even though there were some Republicans that did vote for it in the long run, but they didn't want. I mean, like everything, like Social Security, like Medicare. I mean, we all heard that Reagan recording. If we pass Medicare, there'll be a day when you'll say to your children, "I remember a time when we were free." I mean, what the fuck? Free? What? Free to die without medical care? Free to go on GoFundMe and beg for basic medical care? And if the whole thing, they're so fucked up. The whole thing is fucked up. But anyway, excuse my language. The whole thing is just Democrats.
It is.
Listen to this show. God damn it.
Well, yeah, and we are trying to get some congressional Democrats on the show. It's just hard to get them scheduled because they're so busy. But we're working on that. And it's just, it's like Hal always says on his show, like we're expecting Republicans to think like human beings who have compassion.
Right.
Because I'm a thinking, passionate human, and the way I think, it's like, because it makes sense to me, but it's wrong of me to expect other people to think as compassionately, which is a disappointing thing to have to say about our own government.
True. No, it's true.
Here's what has happened to us. So, like, our entire lives up until this point, we have taken for granted the day-to-day functionality of American life. We expect the lights to work, the faucets to work, the roads to be passable.
Yeah, the water, you turn it on, you don't have fucking parasites because it's been inspected.
Right.
Oh, God, I hate these people.
We've been able to trust our food supply, our medical care. We've been able to trust it implicitly, always, 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 and now we can't. And that's also part of the Project 2025ing of America, is having us sick and scared and compliant. And it's possible that one of the reasons behind them doing all of this is, in a little while when things start tanking and people start dying and everything gets scarier, like, I don't know, making the COVID vaccine available for only people who are over 65, and people start dying and they're scared. There's dying and scared and dying and scared and scared and scared and scared and sick. And then the Republicans can introduce a different bill and be like, hey, here's what we're going to do to make your life better. And then all of a sudden people believe it's better, but it's really not. This is all part of that cult mentality of only we can take care of you, but they're not taking care of us. And so, like, when COVID, I'm trying to like make a connection here in my brain, which is not entirely fusing. But what I'm saying is, like, they could have an opportunity to sweep in and quote unquote save America, which is what they claim to be doing.
Like, create the problem and then pretend to
create
fix it.
the problem and then create the solution, which is what Trump does, right? So announce
all
tariffs,
the time.
Watch everybody freak out, then say, "Oh, actually, I'm going to walk."
Look,
this back.
like the
You're
salt
freak out less and
deduction.
I'll look like a savior.
Right, these fuckers. They took away the salt deduction. I played the video on my show with Trump going, and we will restore the salt deduction in your. He's the fucking one that took it away. The state and local tax deduction, and they did it. They took it away because it primarily affected blue states, where people want to live and there's high value property. So you were once able to deduct all of your property taxes on your state's property taxes on your federal, and because that helped people afford their homes, really. But
Right.
and they went to Long Island, where there's a lot of Trumpanzees, and he was going on about how he was going to restore their SALT deduction, and they were all cheering, and I'm like pulling out my hair. He took it away. They took it away.
Lied.
I mean, okay, and of course it's all a lie anyway. You're right. But he's the one that took it from them. Like, what's wrong with these people? And that's why I say the Republicans they are resting assured in their propaganda mills. You understand? Because these people aren't coming up with this shit on their own. They're not like, whatever their own research is. They're not. They are hearing it on
They don't
Fox
do their
News.
own research. They want us to do our own research so they can send us on a wild goose chase on the Google and then come back with an answer and they go, well, I don't believe you. I don't believe it.
Exactly. They wouldn't believe it
what?
anyway, right?
But the truth is the truth, whether you like it or want to believe it. And quick aside, thank you, Sylvia, for the super chat.
Yes,
thank you, Sylvia.
And who else? Jill from Ecamm. Thank you so much, because I was on the phone with Ecamm. Actually,
thank you, Jill.
And Jill popped in.
Jill.
And
thank you, Jill.
Super
Appreciate
chatted.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. And you
and Sylvia and Jill and Jim.
So here's another question though. Like, these people, they have these jobs as members of Congress. What happens when they kill off all of their own voters? Does that mean that they think that there won't be elections anymore?
Yes, that's it. I mean, I've said this for years, of course, and every Republican chess beats the heart of fascism, and they're, and that's it. You take, and that's why they always call liberals commies, because really, if you take progressivism to its ultimate conclusion, you will have communism, but that's nobody's asking for that.
Bleeding heart liberals, because we care about other people.
No one's ever asked for communism. We don't want the state to take over the mechanisms of production and for everything. But there are some things that we can do together that we do that we can't do alone, like healthcare. That's one of those that the whole fucking world figured out already. And
crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy that everywhere is better than here.
Yeah, and of course we pay more. We pay twice as much. We leave millions out. We rank dead last in all positive measures. But it makes a few people very rich, and it's very disgusting. But what they want is, yes, you're right, to get rid of elections. That's why they gerrymander. They don't want the voters to pick them. They want to pick the voters. That's what they do. When they get power, they pull the ladder up behind them. And it's like the reason we can't get rid of Jim Jordan. He's in an incredibly gerrymandered district. Like, it's right out of the gerrymander playbook, or the illustration of his district is like,
oh, God, I can't stay. We haven't really heard much from him lately. Jim.
Yeah.
And
wasn't
George
Jim
Clooney going to do like some? Yeah. Oh God, the traitorous rape enabling trunk monkey that is Jim Jordan. George Clooney was supposed to do like a biopic or something.
Oh,
or
really?
Some sort of
on Jim Jordan? Oh, right.
A whole thing about the Ohio State scandal.
Like a documentary, right? That's
like a biopic or something. Which we haven't heard about that, but because now he's on Broadway doing Good Night and Good Luck, which
fuck off.
And he died as. You know what? And by the way, George Clooney doing that, and apparently like the second to last performance they're gonna broadcast live on CNN. So
wow.
And I don't know, and I also don't know if you've seen George Clooney recently, but he dyed his hair black. Like jet black.
Oh, really? For this role?
To do the Broadway for the show. And unlike most people who dye their hair, it aged him really badly. And like, I really, try to stay away from the ageist stuff, but like, he deserves all of the ageist comments he's getting because of what he said about Joe Biden. So it's just like, that's karma. That's karma right there. But going back to Jim Jordan, it's just like that guy loves to enable rapists.
Yes, he does.
He enabled Dr. Strauss at Ohio State. He looked the other way when Strauss was raping student athletes at Ohio State for years.
Right.
For years. And then he just gets to walk away from Ohio State and right into the House of Representatives, which is very, very wrong.
But
And
he
if you've ever
cried
seen
though. He cried on the phone. There was testimony of
begging,
yeah,
begging people to drop
begging.
it.
Yeah,
Please
he
don't,
called
please
up the
don't
brother.
testify.
Yeah, he called up the brother of one of the victims and begged him, crying, to please convince your brother not to pursue this.
And
What a
doesn't
dirtbag.
that tell you I mean, they are the party of lying and obfuscating
Yeah.
and evil.
Cowards.
Evil, evil, evil. So, like and it's the things that they continue to ask for when they don't really know what they're asking for, I find entertaining, like the release of the Epstein files, that they're still harping on that when you and I both know that they're out there and available to anybody who wants them, because a Florida judge was ordered by Ron DeSantis to release another cache of the Epstein files, including Katie Johnson's testimony. Was released last year. I have recorded an excerpt from Katie Johnson's testimony. It is my first pinned thing on my Instagram. I have shared it repeatedly on Twitter. And of course, there are those who don't want to believe it's real and say that it's AI or it's fake. It's not. It's just my voice reading the real stuff that you don't like about Trump. And I mean, just today, like Eric Swalwell tweeted, like, you still want those Epstein files? Like, I'm like, well, here you go. I'm happy to help you. They're right here. And that's our, a part of our frustration is showing MAGA facts when they ask. Prove it. Okay, well, here it is. Well, no, that's not real. Well, then fuck you. Like, you don't want to believe that it's true. That's not my problem. That's your problem, right? This is what's true. It's not my fault you don't like it, and it's not up to me to convince you. Here is the facts. And that's, what the news used to be is, here's the facts of what happened. Here's the facts of this happened. Here's the thing that happened. And people are like, well, and you don't get to decide what's fake and what's real based on your feelings, right? So sometimes what I ask people is, let's just say, for example, you're stuck at an airport, and you will be now if you're at an airport because of the FAA being in shambles thanks to thanks to Secretary Road Rash.
Road rules, right? Road rash. Okay,
right?
That's better.
I call him Road Rash.
It's
the only
better.
reason Sean Duffy has this job is because he has a license to drive an RV. Anyway.
Yeah, he was on something called Road Rules, and fucking Trump thinks
MTV reality
saw it
show.
on TV, and so he should know about the roads, shouldn't he? Oh, I hate these people.
And what we're witnessing did not happen when Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg were in office.
And he's so diminished too, right? So diminished. I'll take that over this shit, this bullshit. Fox News in every cabinet position. Fucking Christ on a bike.
So wrong. So fucking wrong in so many different reasons. But what I'll say to like a MAGA person who's like, oh, that's fake. Okay, here, great, awesome. Let's just say you are stuck in an airport waiting area and the TV has a news channel on. Doesn't matter what news channel it is. It really doesn't. Most airports put on CNN. I'm not a CNN fan, but let's just say. And they have a story about a hurricane. A hurricane is a real thing. It's a real event. It has taken place. You are watching the footage of the hurricane. Oh no, the sea levels have risen. Oh no, houses are destroyed. Oh no, trees have fallen. That's a real story and you believe it. And the person's like, okay. The next story is about a Democrat doing something good. It's just a fact. Joe Biden did this. Same news broadcast, same newscaster telling you this. Are you going to tell me that the person who told you there was a hurricane, told you the truth about the hurricane, then turned around and immediately lied to you about Joe Biden passing the CHIPS Act? Let's just say. And that person's like, And they, like if you try to confuse them with logic, stun them with fact that's indisputable, or ask them a question they are stunned into answering, because if you show them exactly what they're doing, they are forced to look at themselves. Whether they respond to you or not, whether or not they acknowledge your point, it goes back to just ask the question. What is the difference in a half an hour of your local news? Let's say, what is your local news that you trust? Whatever affiliate it is, a CBS, an ABC, an NBC, a Fox affiliate. That's your local news. So it's going to tell you, locally there was traffic. Okay, I believe that. I believe there was traffic locally. Locally there was weather. Okay, I believe that. Here's how here's how a Republican policy is impacting you badly locally. Nope, nope, can't be. They're lying about Donald Trump. No, that's not how it works. So, like when all of this, and we've been living under this for like almost a decade now, because it was almost 10 years
And
ago
more,
that he
yeah.
descended that gold escalator to declare his candidacy for 2016. And that is when he began his attack on the media and started calling everything he didn't like fake news. And we saw it again with Peter Alexander asking him about the $400 plane bribe and him
Right.
attacking Peter Alexander
Well, that's what
rather
they
than
do.
addressing the issue.
Just,
And it is up to us to call it out. And that was my long-winded way of saying that's why we're here.
right.
And that's why we have to establish relationships with people in the MSM that we find trustworthy. Your Simone Sanders, your Lawrence O'Donnell. When you see a mainstream media outlet reporting accurately on a story, thank them. Like, hey, great, you're reporting on this. We're reporting on this.
The bar is
Awesome.
really low, right? If you gotta
It's
thank you for
frustrating,
being
though.
truthful, right? I mean, it's like,
But
come on.
that's
Yeah, I
how we
mean,
can start reestablishing trust in the media from the general
Well,
population. Maybe because
I don't know.
here's another example we can use from this week, just this week alone. And we touched on this on Tuesday, and I talked about it yesterday on Dean Obadallah's show. Is everybody was piling on Joe Biden for this, that, and the other thing instead of, because Jake Tapper had a book coming out about Joe Biden and the cover up that the Democrats were doing for the whole 4 years he was in office. Bullshit, that's a lie. Even Naomi Biden tweeted, silly, there's nothing based in reality. But Jake Tapper was out there getting interviews and getting
fuck him.
Trying to sell books and all of that. And then we found out Joe Biden has prostate cancer, and that came to a grinding halt because all of a sudden people were like, well, now you can't. You have to shut the fuck up about Joe Biden. The man is living with stage 4 prostate cancer. And things got so bad for Jake Tapper that they turned off the comments on his book on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, good.
So, right? Because
Should
it's
be
a
ashamed.
lying pile of bullshit crap is
even
what it is.
Jamie
because it was-
Harrison said he made up a story. Jamie Harrison
Right.
he wrote in his book that Biden did not recognize Jamie Harrison at some Democratic event, and Jamie Harrison said that did not happen. It's a complete lie. I would have remembered if the president didn't remember me, and
Exactly.
it's bullshit.
This is a moment where the mainstream media can now take the opportunity they've been presented. If there's anything good that can come out of a prostate cancer stage 4 diagnosis, it's first of all killing the Jake Tapper book. Thank you, prostate cancer, for killing Jake Tapper's bullshit pile of crap. That's one. It's also going to force the mainstream media to look at his administration and his loan term accurately and say, all right, well, here's actually Joe, because they're going to start eulogizing him already, which nobody should be doing, but they're going to do it anyway. So then if you're going to do that, you have to go back and report on his administration and its successes
You would
that
hope.
you did not do while he was in office.
Yeah.
Because you are the mainstream media. We are the public outcry will continue to force them to tell the truth
Yeah.
about Joe Biden, just like they did with Jimmy Carter. That's what happened. You have to look at the record. Let the record speak for itself. Joe Biden's economic record, how many bills he got passed, what he did for the American people. It is on the record, and it doesn't matter
Right.
what Republicans say. The record stands for itself. It's been, it's archived. You
Yeah.
can't. That's the record, and that's why the current White House website is a pack of lies.
Yeah,
and I just read this morning. They announced that everything that Donald Trump has said publicly, all of those transcripts have been removed.
Yeah,
and the
'cause
only
he's-
thing
it's
that's
an
on there is like the text of his inauguration
Right.
speech.
It's an embarrassing catalog of all of his ramblings, his stupid ramblings about sharks and windmills and bird cemeteries and everything that this
They're eating the
dotard-
dogs.
Yeah,
They're eating the cats.
And because when you read it, and when you hear it, but when you read it, it's even worse. And that's the thing that when this mainstream media, the problem is the media. I've been saying it for years. The whole divided country can be traced back to the consolidation of the media, which of course happened under Bill Clinton, signed the Telecommunications Act of
Oh
'96,
man, I
and
haven't.
that's
Oh, bad,
and
Bill
that's
Clinton.
what turned
Bad.
because that's another pillar of democracy, which we have lost.
Yep.
You weren't before the Telecommunications Act. You weren't allowed to have a newspaper, a radio station, a TV station in the same market. You could only and it makes sense.
could only have
Now
one.
no holds barred. That's why you have Rupert Murdoch's Poison Pustule Post and Fox News, and without the Telecommunications Act, we wouldn't have had Rush Limbaugh.
That's
It
very
made
true.
Rush Limbaugh possible. But all these transnational
Created the.
the transnational corporations we used to have over 50 companies that owned media outlets. Now it's 6, and they own
disgusting.
TV stations, radio stations,
Radio stations.
newspapers.
And as someone who came, right, and I come from radio. That's my background. I was on alternative radio here in Portland for 5 years, and watching the demise of terrestrial radio is a heartbreak for me, as it should be for anyone who grew up listening to the radio. So Gen X and older, as the last generation that lived pre-internet. We lived without the internet. We watched the rise of it. And when the deregulations happened in the 90s, I wasn't working in radio at the time, and I didn't fully understand how detrimental it was. But certainly after working in radio, I saw it and experienced it for myself.
Yeah.
Because what it does is it divides the audience and dilutes.
That's what
your
happens.
You
right, go
and
into
that was
silos
intentional.
of information.
Right.
And when I have a degree in communication. I have a master's and a undergrad, of course, in communications. And
She's wicked smart.
yeah, and I was an undergrad, and when that happened, when Bill Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act, and we knew, these young undergrads in college knew that this was going to destroy the freedom of the press. It would consolidate the media. It was detrimental to democracy. If we knew that, because they asked Bill Clinton about it, and it really irritates me because he said, "Oh, we never predicted that."
Come
bullshit.
on.
Bullshit.
You gave them a blank check.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Bullshit
More
into
money,
the
right?
mainstream.
Consolidating everything in the hands of a few. That's what it's about.
It is,
So.
and why it's bad for terrestrial radio, because it used to be, before the internet, radio was where you found new bands, new music, or you went back and found your old favorites or whatever. And it was a hugely important communications tool. But once we had the internet, we didn't, the reasons to turn to radio got smaller and smaller and smaller. And you get companies like iHeart and Clear Channel that have homogenized radio across the country so that every city sounds the same, and there's no uniqueness to radio in any market anymore. And being on the radio in Portland, when I was on the radio in Portland, my station was alternative, and we broke bands, and we did cool stuff, and we were doing things that most radio stations weren't doing, and for the most part we were left alone. But we were also owned by Entercom, which is now Odyssey, and Odyssey is another conglomerate that has homogenized radio. And now, if you listen to the radio, there's a really good chance that if you're hearing a human voice, it's either AI or it's somebody who is voice tracking from another city who doesn't live in your city. And my old radio station, 94.7 Alternative Portland, which is KNRK, we prided ourselves on, it's different here. That was our logo. That was our motto, and it's not. And now the radio station that we were once so proud of being so Portland, that played Portland bands and was the Portland sound, now no longer has any human beings in the studio. Anybody who works on that station does not live in Portland.
It's a shame.
And so it's just heartbreaking. And it's another slow boil that you don't even realize it's happening until it has happened. Like your favorite radio person. And after a while, and I had this conversation with my bosses in 2006. And I mean, I could spend a whole hour just telling you about all of the things that I told my bosses, and they didn't believe me, and I was proven right. And it's very frustrating as a woman in radio because they think you're just there to bang rock stars, and that's not why. But I told them in 2006, I was like, hey, listen, we really should be streaming online. And they were like, why? Why would we do that? And I'm like, because the internet is killing us. People don't need us for traffic, weather, breaking new bands. I mean, MySpace is breaking bands, and people had iPods to plug into their car radio, their cars, and they didn't need us anymore. I'm like, you need to give them a reason to come here. And the reason is us. It's the human connection that keeps people coming back. That's why people watch podcasts and listen to us. They can get information anywhere, but they have choices, and they choose to come and hang out with Tara and Tara because they know that we're going to tell them the truth. They're going to go and listen to Stephanie Miller and John Fugelsang and Hal Sparks and Frangela because we're going to keep telling them the truth. These are choices. It's the human connection. They can go anywhere, but they choose to come here. Same thing with radio. That's the same thing. You could hear the same songs on 5 different channels in a market now, but you chose to go to this station because you liked this person. And that's what people in charge always forget. The people who are at the top, the people who write the paychecks, they forget about the little people. And that's what's happened to the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
They have forgotten about the people. They have lost, if they ever cared about the people, they have lost that. And now it's all about the bottom line and their pockets.
Yeah, it's selfish.
And their bank accounts.
Yeah, they're and I have to think about like Kristi Noem and all of these people. I mean, they're very disturbed people, and I'm not a psychologist. I did take Psych 201, but she's a freaking sociopath, and I mean that's who they are. They're sick people, and when you were asking about, well, I mean, all you got to do is look at what she did with killing the dog and writing about it, and then killing the goat.
That reality show that they're going to do.
Dragging a goat to a poor dog, a poor puppy that it ruined her hunt. She was trying to kill some other things, and then the puppy didn't, got in the way, so she dragged it to a gravel pit in front of construction workers and an offloading bus of children who were horrified, and shot the fucking dog. And then in the middle of her monstrous event there, she remembered the goat that she hated. That shows me she's a sociopath. That is what is. She's like, oh, that fucking goat. And she dragged the goat to the gravel pit too and shot it, but it didn't die instantaneously. It took a couple of shots. She's a pig. No offense to pigs. Okay, but the point
pigs
is
are smart.
No,
yes,
you're right. Pigs are charming and intelligent, and not like Kristi Noem.
Look, it's Duke. Everybody say hi to Duke. There's Duke.
Look at Dookie. But
Duke says, "By the Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story, available now at TaraDublinRocks.com."
That's right.
Instead of Jake Tapper's lying crap book, buy my book. Thank you.
That's right. And so, because you were asking what is the point is that you know what's going to happen if we are not successful in getting this country back from basically the domestic enemies that I and so many others took an oath to defend the country against, right?
Right.
That what they do is they will ensure their power. They pull and as we know, whenever they have power, they're pulling the ladder up behind them. And what this country will look like, it will be like other countries that have fallen into autocracy, and we could look throughout history. It will have the semblance of a free republic. We will still have elections, just like, and a lot of people don't know, and those who watch my show, we talk about it, so they probably know that, after Rome fell, the Roman Republic was 500 years old, and that fell, and they had a saying in Rome, there will be no kings in Rome, and they still fell to an autocracy, to an empire. But the first 200 years of when it went to an autocracy, they had the semblance of a republic. The Augustus, the first Roman emperor, he didn't call himself the emperor. That only came later. They called them that later. He called himself the first citizen, the first among equals, the principus. That's where we get the name, the prince. That's what prince comes from. And they had elections. They had local elections, because the Roman Empire was so big. They still got to vote for their local magistrates and whatnot. And even when they excavated Pompeii, they were in the middle of elections. There were election graffiti on the wall. So
Right.
that's what will happen here. We will go through the motions of democracy, but the power, and I argue really that it's happening now because of gerrymandering, because of voter suppression. If you can't get rid of somebody, and the electoral college too, on top, like all these anti-democratic mechanisms,
Antiquated, racist.
put in there to stop democracy from actually breaking out. And as closer we get to democracy, then that's when Republicans freak out, as we see. Even when Joe Biden won, they don't like democracy. They tried to overthrow it, for freak's sake, on January 6th. They don't like the multiracial liberal democracy as this country was founded. They just don't like it.
That's a valid that's just a great point to continue to hammer home. And if you have the opportunity to reach out to any Republican, ask them why they hate democracy. Ask them.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it goes back to just ask the question, because I don't care if the question is offensive to anybody. If it's a valid question,
right.
Why do you hate our democracy? And if they say, "Oh, I don't hate democracy," well, you're voting to kill off American citizens. That's pretty hateful. That's, in violation of the Constitution.
It's so gross. They're disgusting.
Continue to hammer home.
You're
not providing for the common defense. You're not promoting the general welfare.
You're not. Yeah. Oh, well, they don't like the general welfare. That was the argument. Yeah, but
if
the
you're
argument.
Not do your job.
But for when we were trying to pass Obamacare, they would wave their pocket constitutions around, saying, "Where in this constitution, in this sacred document, can you find universal health care? How about promote the general welfare?
Welfare.
How's that? That right there." And it's in there 3 times. It's not just, and it's capitalized too. So it's supposed to be important.
So then you should come back with, where in the Constitution does it say it's fine for you to deliberately attack and kill your own constituents? Because it doesn't.
No, they're saying they're teaching them the dignity of work, and that's
we
what
already
they
have
say.
that. Thank you.
I know they're so disgusting. They're condescending.
We already have a working I know.
Well, they
already have a working class, and so that's the question, and that's the assignment for everybody in the chat going forward. Aside from supporting us here on Political Voices Network and signing up for Devlin's Substack and my Substack and buying my book, The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story, available now at towerdublinrocks.com. It is up to us to continue to hold, you see something, it's like see something, say something. So like when a Lawrence O'Donnell tweets, the media is not covering this. I'm like, you're the media. You're covering it. I'm
he's covering it.
Media.
Yeah.
I'm covering it. Let's be boosting each other. And that's the point I was trying to make earlier, is like, you see someone like like Katie Fang. Katie Fang is a fantastic journalist and was on MSNBC until she was let go. She is now a part of the Midas Touch Network. Midas Touch, who is doing great work, consistently doing great work, and allies of ours, and is now the most popular podcast, even above Joe Rogan.
That's
great.
Now
Katie Fang is part of their network.
Wonderful.
And that's how we do this, right? So maybe Midas isn't as generous in promoting us in kind, but they could be. And we could all be a part. Well, I think that, if you join forces, even with just supporting each other by sharing, that's a way to connect and be part of a larger network. So like when Air America failed, this is a new attempt at Air America, in that we are broadcasting on a network. We are sharing the truth. We are here every single day, all day. We have a whole bunch of people in place who are doing great work to continue to have conversations with people and make sure that the truth is getting out into the world. And it's just about supporting each other in those endeavors. So when you see someone doing good, honest work, elevate them, share them on your socials. And that is how we're going to continue to build truthful community and making sure that the truth continues to get out there, because that's what matters the most. So we are holding Republicans and Democrats accountable while supporting each other. I think that's a good plan, because we can't fix everything right now. So all we can do is what we can do on the daily.
That's right.
And as we rock out, going out, that's your assignment for the weekend, my friends. Be good to each other, be good to yourself. And we are in the streets again on Saturday. There's another national march this Saturday. So get out there in the streets. Stand up, fight back, no more kings, all of that. And hug a cat today if you can.
Get your emotional support animals. Keep them close.
Thanks to everybody who was here. Thank you to those who super chatted us. We love you. We hope you continue to support us. And we will be back on Tuesday, TNT, on Tuesday at 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 11 a.m. on the West Coast. Take care of yourselves.
All right, guys. See you on the
Thanks, you guys.
Substack. See you on the
Love
Substack.
you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Hold on.
Baboom.
Bing bong badoom.